Okay, so here's the only browser abandonment guide that you're going to need on the internet right now, up to date. This is September 2024, and this is pretty much everything that we at Auraseed use to create premium standout customer journeys for our brands and high converting browser abandonment flows. Browser abandonment flow is a fundamental in every e-commerce's toolbox, and from our experience auditing hundreds and hundreds of brands, it's usually one which is pretty under neglected, usually like one or two emails, fairly standardized templates, generic content, generic copy, and there's just so much more potential here. Not only do we want to increase obviously engagement and conversions through the browser abandonment and reduce bounces in the customer journey, but we also just have another opportunity to establish our digital footprint, our brand identity in the eyes of our prospects. So it's something we don't want to sleep on, and it's a real important part. Consider it the second date with a potential prospect. Like you wouldn't like suddenly get off form on your second date. This is the case with the browser abandonment. So if you don't know who I am, by the way, besides giving bizarre dating analogies to email marketing, my name's Sean Miller. I'm the founder of Auraseed. We're one of the UK's leading email marketing agencies. We service clients globally, and it's our goal to be recognized as the world's #1 email marketing agency, as recognized by Klaviyo. We're getting there. We've got fantastic clients and we do fantastic work, but I'd like to give stuff away for free because not everyone can afford to work with us at this stage. So understanding browser abandonment. So what is the browser abandonment? Well, the browser abandonment occurs when a customer visits a site, views a product, and then simply moves on. So they don't really progress down the customer journey. They don't add something to cart or add something to checkout. Typically, when we're building out flows sequentially for our clients, this is around the third one we focus on if you're to count the pop-up as a flow. So obviously be a high converting pop-up with multiple different tests, around 3 different tests to start off. We build out obviously a premium customer journey through the welcome series or the onboarding sequence, and then the browser abandonment sort of comes next. And when we're creating this from an approach perspective, we want to be mindful of levels of intent, because beginning, just simply viewing a product is not the same as adding a product to your shopping cart or beginning the checkout process. We do really want to consider this as a theme, as like a lighter touch point. We don't want to be too pushy here. I'm going to give you all of the information you need as far as content goes, but the overall goal that you should have as a marketer or creating this flow, like what is your goal, what is your intention, is to get customers back to the website, to begin the purchase journey, to finish the purchase, or to find a new product. And there's many different ways that we can achieve those goals. So the impact of the browser abandonment flow, obviously it's a significant flow for increasing engagement, but also boosting conversion rates. And by understanding your product offering, your customer behavior, you can start to create targeted, more effective emails that are going to resonate with your audience and go above and beyond just the standard templates. And I've been on courses years and years ago. What we got taught on browser abandonment flows then isn't going to cut it now. I think just like starting a YouTube channel 10, 15 years ago, pretty much could get anything out there and it was okay. Now the barrier to entry is higher. You have to have a microphone, for example, for people to sort of acknowledge your content as somewhat professional. So the same goes for the expectations from the consumer from a content perspective when it comes to flows. So let's dive into things a little deeper. Why do we need a browser abandonment flow? Obviously, I'm using Buffy here as an example. I think they've got fantastic emails across the board. We can dive into that. But browser abandonment emails in general drive conversion rates at around 0.95, 0.96 to around 1.5%. So it's a lot higher than the average email campaign, which sort of converts on average, on aggregate, around 0.10%. Browser abandonment flows convert less than abandoned cart or checkout flows, which are closer to 4%, but they often achieve better open rates. So what does this suggest? That this is a really important part in the customer journey. There's a lot of interest, there's a lot of intrigue, and there's a real opportunity to really bolster our impression with our prospect and move them down their purchase journey. So why do customers maybe browse their branding session? Why would they just view a product and move on? Well, they might be looking for something else. They might not be fully sold on the product. They might be interested, but not necessarily in a buying window, or might not just be in the mindset to purchase. They might be tired. They might not have been paid yet. They may simply have just got distracted, which is super common in today's sort of digital world. They might be price shopping. They might like you, but they might be price shopping. Or they might still be doing more research depending on your product. So it's good to have these ideas in mind when it's good to sort of download these reasons someone like become aware of why someone might abandon a browsing session before we start to create content from like a first principles perspective. So what type of brands could benefit best from a browser abandonment flow? Well, it's a trick question. All brands of all sizes can leverage a browser abandonment automation. There's no getting away from building this. But here are three key product categories or types of brands that we've noticed will particularly benefit from this and almost have like an above average performance from these particular flows holistically. So obviously companies or like brands with a high number of SKUs, simply because a larger selection of items will lead to a longer buyer's journey, more decisions leads to more consideration, leads to more wading through and finding the product for them. So simply we want to help double down and help in a prospect navigate your website, navigate your product collection, and a browser abandonment flow and emails are a perfect opportunity to do that. Luxury or premium products will benefit really nicely. We can use these, browser abandonment can be an awesome opportunity to highlight the unique benefits, the value of your product, position it against competitors, reinforce its desirability, because high ticket products, more premium or luxury products are essentially a more considered purchase. They're high ticket, so people have to consider them more. So you need to strengthen your argument and your reason and build confidence in your prospect to get to a point where they're like willing to impart with a large amount of money to purchase from you versus a competitor. And obviously products that require more education as well. So like if you're like a trailblazer, a new or exciting product or a complex product, or anything that just sort of requires additional information to make an informed decision, maybe on how it works or like the potential customers that they're actually served, to make like people go, oh, that's me. This is a really good opportunity to build this argument and start to like speak to these people within browser abandonment flows. So you can use how-to guides, educational content, customer testimonials to alleviate hesitation. And again, I'm going to give more clarity on all of these things later. This is not going to be a process to set this up, but I wanted to just give you some clear pointers. At this stage, if you're thinking about a browser abandonment flow, you've probably got Klaviyo integrated with your Shopify store or your e-commerce platform. If you haven't, you can find a developer on Upwork, for example. You can work with a consultant or an agency. WooCommerce, Shopify, you don't really need development expertise to integrate the two platforms. That's why they're so brilliant. But you just want to make sure all of the APIs are firing. And once they are, you don't really even need to worry about the filter, making sure the filters are correct, because using the standard Klaviyo browser abandonment template will make sure all of that's already done for you. You just want to double check that the profile filters look like this. So checkout started 0 times, placed order 0 times, and has not been in the flow in the last 30 days. If you want to get really crafty after you've done this, you can clone this and you can put a filter in for people who have only purchased once, and you can adjust the messaging ever so slightly for people who have never purchased and people who have purchased once, because again, there's a slight different level of intent there, but again, that's getting more advanced, and that's only something I'd recommend later once you've got all of the foundations I'm about to share here already established. And obviously now we can create the content. So like Klaviyo's given us the setup, which is fantastic, but we don't want to sit there. Now it's on us to get creative, and we can just worry about creating really good content. So we want to create around 4 to 5 emails within this flows. We want to put some foundational tests in place, and this is where we start to go above and beyond the standard Klaviyo templates. So I'm going to give you a bit of a blueprint here from a content perspective to help you give a map. So if you're going to do 5 emails, you might think to yourself like, well, what am I going to do in these 5 emails? This is a general guide, and then we can start to get into making them specific to your brand or the brands that you're working with if you're an agency. So email 1 should just be like, as a principle, like a simple nudge sent within the first hour of like abandoning that particular product. You want to get it well that's still fresh in their minds, and this should just be a simple reminder with some on-brand copy, some good visuals, and a good clear CTA. You don't really need too much more than that. You just want to make sure that everything, like let's say you've got really good assets on the website, really good branding, like a cool brand tone of voice, like just make sure all of that's being transmuted over this first email, and it's just like a real nice nudge back. Number 2 is where we start to think about and creating more elements into the email. So almost the first component of it can be very simple. So you can again provide just a different flavor of the simple nudge, but then you also want to include some key features, maybe product benefits, or anything that's going to strengthen the narrative of why your customer buys. So it might, a good question to ask yourself, and I got reminded this from a marketer the other day, is like, ask yourself, do people buy your products because of how it looks or because of what it does? And I'll just leave that with you. Like, that's just a simple question, but I think it helps realize like when we're going to look at some like email examples, like why does a fashion email or like some of these activewear emails like have real minimal copy? Maybe it's just some like quick whips here and there, some cute language here and there, but otherwise it's just very visual, because a lot of the time people buy these products because of how they look. So you need to, as a brand owner, think, okay, that becomes a priority for the kind of content I need. However, someone else might go, no, I really need good narrative. So then it becomes about good storytelling, good instructionals and clever copy, and then good infographics. So let like that question sort of steer what you need to prioritize when it comes to content. You may also want to let people know about risk reversals, so like shipping, refunds, for example. I tend to think this is more appropriate on the later pre-purchase flows, so abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, but it can definitely work here as well. And you may want to provide alternatives at this stage, just in case they're browsing for options. So like you can also give like still looking for other options and give them some recommendations. So number 2 is like the simple reminder, again, slightly different to the first one. Then we want to give a little bit more context about why people buy, and it's going to be unique for every brand. So you've got to think about why people buy from you and what's going to strengthen that argument for your potential customer, and then maybe give them some options when browsing on. Number 3 is a great opportunity to bring in some reviews. So again, we always want to have our simple nudge and dynamic fields at the top of the email. Then we want to have some testimonials to continue to build trust, credibility, desirability, validate your brand. So we recommend creating product specifics for your best sellers. Like when it comes to testimonials, I do recommend that you create custom product splits for your best sellers and product specific testimonials. But that's better again reserved for the abandoned cart and abandoned checkout. So don't worry about that right now. For the browse abandonment, just a range of your best testimonials will be sufficient. So maybe like 3 to 4 testimonials. And for brands with less SKUs, them versus us, nice infographics as well. So like if you're like a 1 product store or 2 product store and you've just got like this flagship product, if you just got like one flagship product or like a more complex product, like them versus us can be really, really nice. I'll just give you a great example. I'm sure you've seen this a lot. Look at Cereal or Magic Spoon. They're like a breakfast cereal, right? They've only got usually like 1, 2 or 3 flavors. It's just the breakfast cereal. So like for them, leaning into like them versus us makes a ton of sense, because they can start to compare themselves to other cereal brands. For example, though, if you're a fashion brand, you've got around 300 or 400 different SKUs within your product collection. Doing them versus us doesn't really make that much sense, because there's probably going to be so many different products with so many different nuances. So again, you have to be strategic on like what kind of brand are you marketing for, but like the overall sentiment when it comes to testimonials is just don't make them boring, like make them pop. If you can use a GIF to like complement it, if you've got good short form content, maybe think about that. Maybe just choose your best ones and don't just use the top 3 testimonials that you see, like use the best ones. And like, what are the best ones? Well, like get a feel for like, what are the angles that really resonate, what are the angles that really resonate with your target audience, and find the reviews that speak to those and then use those ones. Number 4, this is optional, but this is when we can start to do a bit more direct response and use a discount. So here we can offer a small incentive for first-time customers. And then number 5, we can have a nudge on that discount as well. So this is an optional final nudge to customers to use that discount from the last email. Here I also recommend other products again, recommending some other products again, and that way you can get people to use the discount that you've just given them and give them other options on where they could potentially spend it. This is something I don't see a lot of brands doing at all, but we definitely recommend. It looks like big and scary, but it's quite easy to do. And this is a foundational test you should be put in place. And this is testing time. And so once you've built your 5 different emails, then you want to create sort of 3 different randomized control sample splits. So that way you're going to have 4 pathways, and then you can put a short, medium, and a long testing sequence in on timing. And that way you can just begin to ascertain whether or not your audience is going to respond better to shorter waits and like more aggressive follow-ups, or actually just given a bit more breathing space and a bit more time as well. Usually my perspective is just don't guess, just test this, put these in place, because oftentimes we've had intuitions, we've had all of these bright ideas and opinions, but at the end of the day, the data speaks for itself, and sometimes it contradicts what intuition says. So sometimes logic doesn't apply here in marketing, we just need to follow the data. So let's move on. So here are some best practices to aspire above average content in your browser abandonment flow. So consider your customer's point of view. Again, this is something I see clearly with a lot of brands when we look at their browser abandonment flows, is it's clearly either just been banged into ChatGPT, or it's just been using, they've like looked at like some really outdated browser abandonment flows, and the invitation is just to and I'm going to say this with all different flows, this is like a real strong sentiment here, is like, if you have a good ad, that could be run for years and years and years and continue to make you money. But the difference between an okay ad and a good ad is just time invested. So just don't rush through these flows. Like, if you get them right and you really invest high quality content into high quality content, and actually just thinking about your customer's point of view and like representing your brand as good as possible, like these flows will then like yield results for years to come. So this is just something to really get right and to not just rush through. So like obviously one-time purchases, to sort of delineate between different levels of intent. One-time purchases like you, but they may not love you. So while one-time purchases could still be reminded of the benefits of your product, they may require deeper knowledge of key features, and that might get them to buy. So that's usually a good opportunity. Like email 2 or email 3 is a good opportunity to sort of dive into that. And you also want to consider what users may not have seen on your product page, like details on your product page that you think are really, really important, but people may have missed. That's a really great way to get content and then include that in the browse abandonment, because usually, depending on like the kind of products, there's lots of information on that product page. Take out some key things that you think are really going to help, or maybe look at some common angles or really positive reviews and then work that into the copy within your browse abandonment. Some things that you can speak to are ingredients, like ingredients used if you're like a skincare brand or a supplement brand. For like clothing, like fit guides can be really, really cool. Use cases for certain brands, like again, where it's like fashion and jewelry, where it's all about how things look and desirability, and also social, sort of like social credibility. So like as seen on, so like if influencers have worn it, or if like it's been in the press, or you've had some good PR, it's really nice to include that in around email 2 or 3 as an element. Deeper product education, and obviously email 2, 1, 5, good cross-sell suggestions as well. You want to have multiple touch points where you're cross-selling other products just in case they haven't found their perfect one yet. So like Cardinal Mason, I think he wrote this nicely. When writing email flows, try to imagine yourself going through the customer journey. If someone is in browse abandonment, it's likely they're price shopping between you and the competitor. Make this email the difference between your brand versus them. Be one step ahead. 100%. This is just the opportunity. Like the brand who's put a lot of time and energy into just creating good content versus the one who's just got the templatized Klaviyo one out the box, sort of set it and forget it a few years ago. I mean, like, who's going to create that first impression, and who's going to be like, oh yeah, that brand was really cool? It's going to be your competitor. So don't let it be them, let it be you. And obviously clear CTAs are an important component to having really, really good flows. I thought this was a really cool example as well, like explore Tannet, shop now, like super simple. So a clear CTA should lead the customer back to their shopping cart or product page. The CTA should be prominent, easy to find, super clear. Clever CTAs are worth testing here and there. And for certain brands with like a real quirky personality and tone of voice, like testing clever CTAs might be worth it, but I would always recommend just testing that versus more straightforward orders to begin to be a bit more above average and get just better performances from your CTAs and higher click-throughs. So here are some pro tips, and this is like, if you don't know where to start, this is a really, really good like formula that we've built here at Aura Seed. We deviate from this because we've got a lot of like creative expertise now in Flair, and we realize every brand doesn't need to look the same. But if you want like a basic guideline, header, reason why, subheader, dynamic content, CTA, and then additional elements. This is a really nice like framework for a browse abandonment email. So we've just sort of like superimposed our framework here on an email. This is not ours, but we just saw this online, Fortune Jewelry, and you can see it here. Like we think it was meant to be. Nice copy, little subheader as well, which is a bit more direct, which says, you know, take another look and see if the stars align. So this is probably super on point for brand. It does like astrology. So again, it's just been self-aware and on brand with their copy. Then we've got the dynamic product. Then we've got our CTA as well. Then we've got additional elements as well. And here they've gone for product recommendations, but they also haven't just sort of used the standard font and just been super boring. They've got like nice sort of typography here at the bottom, and then they've segued to like offering a few different recommendations. So almost in one page there, I think that's a banging browse abandonment email applying this formula. So if you don't know where to start and you want to start getting pen to paper, use this formula here. But some other pro tips is be persuasive and on-brand messaging, like study copywriting ever so slightly, just so you actually understand what copywriting is if you don't. Dynamic product blocks, obviously, clear CTAs, add additional elements that will help move the customer along in some way with their intent, with their level of intent considered. So understanding their at the browse abandonment stage, not abandoned cart stage, what additional elements could help move that customer to abandoned cart or just a conversion. So like, this is where you start to become creative and don't just use formulas or frameworks. So while detail might make sense for product education, we still recommend keeping a straight line, staying on track, and don't be confusing. So even if you do decide to do some product education and have a bit of storytelling, that's great, but then the invitation is not to get so long-winded or confused and going off in many different directions. Like, are you coherent? Is it going in a straight line, and does it funnel back to the CTA? Like, that's always something to be aware of. Just making sure, because sometimes in browser abandonments we see lots of different elements at the bottom, like key features, and then how to use, and then follow our newsletter, then follow our blog, and it's just too many components. So we recommend moving away from that. And more often than not, less is more when it comes to the copy. This is a great example of that. I'll always say don't settle for generic ChatGPT copy. By all means, use ChatGPT to be more effective and to help sort of reduce grunt work, but don't let it be a substitute for you being a marketer yourself. And be attention grabbing, be clear, concise with your subject line. So often, again, shorter subject lines tend to work better. And like, what would grab your attention? Go look into your junk folder or go look into your emails and look at what other brands are sending. And then just start to get some inspiration, see a formula that you see works quite nicely, and then apply it to your brand with your brand tone and copy and all of the nuances of like your tone of voice. And creating subject lines is not going to be that hard for you. So this is a really important one, and again, I don't see really like many tutorial videos probably including this, but it's super important to me, and this is something I really emphasize here at Aura Seed and our team. It's to be creative. Oftentimes, like when you're doing email marketing or Facebook ads, you can just start to forget the art of just being a marketer, or especially as an e-commerce brand owner. Like, you can get stuck in operations, or you can get stuck in systems and accounting and economics, and almost you stop invigorating yourself and like creating a great brand. Like, obviously creating a good product is paramount, but you creating a good brand and a product and a good brand is sort of like two sides of the same coin. So I'm just going to include some like quotes here from some of my favorite marketers, just to start to like inspire creativity. So you're not always looking to be spoon-fed by like gurus on YouTube, and like you're inspired to like go and create good copy and create good content yourself. Especially if this is an agency, send this video to your agency, because when you're inspired to create good content yourself and you have good material in your mind, you then have the energy to go and write good content. But like when you're like deprived of good material, good marketing inspiration, and good marketing examples, when you're deprived of that, it becomes way harder to like write good content, and you're going to settle for just copy and pasting what other people do. So Craig Davis, we need to stop interrupting what people are interested in and what we need to stop interrupting what people are interested in and be what people are interested in. Very cool. Gary V, the best marketing strategy ever, care. So like, again, if you're an agency marketing for your e-commerce brand, like, have you got into the shoes of their consumer? Do you care about their brand? Have you gone all in and immersed yourself on who their competitors are, why people buy? You need to. Otherwise, you're just going to create subpar content. Marketing is really just about sharing your passion. Same sentiment, like become passionate about the product and then write from there. Then you don't need as many tools and formulas. Like, if you just become passionate about it, you're gonna write with zest and vigor. And then if you still need to refine and like your copywriting skills, you can go and learn and do that. But the best way to do that is just by reading good copy. I love Rory Sutherland. The first time I ever saw Rory Sutherland, who's this gentleman here, was when I was at Adweek about 2 years ago. I went and saw him talk live. And he's a fantastic mind in marketing. The reason that most marketing isn't working well as it should do is that it's based far too much on what people think and far too little on how people feel. Again, this is always a sentiment like, we want to make people feel, and this is sometimes why fashion brands double down so hard on like shoots and content versus just like trying to like talk people into buying it. It's like creating a vibe, creating a feeling, like creating an emotion. And like, if you have good content and good design, that's going to go a long way at making people feel and making people feel that you're premium, feel like you're trustworthy. Like you literally convey, oh, these guys are clearly doing well. They've got great marketing. People are clearly buying them. They're clearly developed. They're clearly an established brand. Like, even if you're not there yet, you want to create that impression. Marketing is really just about sharing your passion. We've got that. Oh, Seth, here we go. People don't buy goods and services. They buy relationship stories and magic. So how are we creating magic? And one way here is this tool here is called Mild. If you're not using it already, you should be. If you're an agency, or if you're a brand owner and you're lacking creativity, what I'll go and do is like literally write down 6 or 7 brands that you love that have fantastic content. Some in your product category, some not. And what you can go and do is type down a Mild, go look at all of their emails over the last 3 or 4 years, seasonally, times of months, and just immerse yourself in it and just start taking screenshots, building a mood board of things that you like, things that you thought were cool. And sooner or later, you're going to be like, oh, I'd like to take a bit of that. I'd like to take a bit of that. And that design feature is amazing. I think we could use that. And sooner or later, you're just loading yourself with material and creativity to start creating really, really good emails of your own from a design perspective, to see what the best brands are doing on a consistent basis, like what are their cadence structures. So use Mild to inspire creativity and to fuel your mind. Don't neglect this if you're an agency, you work for an agency, or you're a brand owner. So I'm just going to go through some really cool emails here as well. Something missing. We've got like a little learn more as well. So the element they've gone for at the bottom is to learn more. True answer to table. So it's a bit of storytelling, right? They've got a bit of a narrative around like their meat and why it's high quality, and their imagery is beautiful, but it's really simple. And our dynamic block is right here as well. 2 clear CTAs. Really nice email. So we can go down here. Veronica Beard. I love this. Like for me, this is the classic like chic boutique fashion sort of vibe. Super minimal, letting the models do the talking here, letting the collection do the talking, and a real nice little note like pick up where you left off, shop now, not pushy, confident and minimal. Really, really nice. This is complete other direction, right? This is like an education on how to. So this is like Spot Tango. So this brand, this dog brand, clearly requires a bit more education because they're a unique product, like one of the avatars that I was speaking to earlier. So look at how these guys have used, like in their elements, a bit more of an education on how it works. Not every brand needs to have this level of design, but if you do, double down on it. Like once the work's done once, you're going to be so proud of it, and then you can include this into lots of different emails as well. This could even be a campaign repurposed as a browser abandonment email, and then you could just have the dynamic field at the top here as well. I love this from Parachute. I noticed you noticed in me. It's quite a classic copy here, but it works. And they've opted for a bit of cross-selling here at the bottom, or recommending other products, and the take me home as well. Like I just think, like, again, that's subtle, that's clever, that's creative, but it's also an action, like take me home, like purchase me. So it's still very, very clear. So this is just where like inspiring yourself from other copy and reading good copy is just going to give you good ideas. Nomad as well, they've gone for a bit of humor here, like did your Wi-Fi crash? Fret not. I like that, it's clever, but again, the dynamic block here is super crisp, super minimal, but also looks really premium, and I really like this. Afraid to make the leap, and they've given a little objection handling as well, and they've also given an opportunity to see new arrivals, but all without making it feel bloated and cluttered. So I think that's really nice. Girlfriend Collective, again, they've gone in for the offer, so this is a nice way to double down and increase the offer. Feels Gummies, again, you know, ingredients, supplement brands, ingredients that it don't have, the positives of it are all good ways. They've also added a discount here, so probably lots to learn from this Feels. Go look at Feels and Mild. There's lots to learn from these browser abandonment emails. So hopefully there you go. This is half an hour's worth of content on just the browser abandonment flow. If you need any more information on that, feel free to drop me a comment. I will answer all of the comments, and I will try and give you as many insights as possible. And if you want to learn a bit more about how we could potentially help do this for you, book in a call at auraseed.com, and we'd love to have a chat. So otherwise, hope that was helpful, and see you on the next one.